Hello to our viewers on both platforms. And as you're probably aware of, and as we've seen in the videos earlier, this series of self empowering talks is a complementary program to our global search for the happiest Pinoy. We're happy to share that we've received over 500,000 nominations already for the happiest Pinoy. And we are now in the process of reviewing and shortlisting the nominees. You may visit our official website www.happiest-pinoy.com for further announcements. The Happiest Pinoy, of course, grand winner will receive 500,000 pesos tax-free, while each category winner will receive 25,000 pesos. We're very excited to announce, of course, the Happiest Pinoy this coming November 2025. But before we start with this afternoon's program, let's make this session very engaging. Please use the chat box to send in your questions for our guest. We'll answer them later in the Q&A, and maybe as you listen, please drop your one-liner insights or reflections. We'll read some of them aloud during teacher and a personal development trainer for over 30 years. He's currently based in Istanbul, where he is the national coordinator of all the BK meditation centers in Turkey. He's been traveling and a lot, and I actually call him the traveling yogi, if I can say that. He was just in Rome, I understand, last week, and will be traveling to Poland for a series of talks next week. He'll guide us on how to, well, one, build mental agility and emotional resilience, two, hopefully break free from negative thinking, and three, stay centered in difficult situations. Friends, please join me in giving a warm, happiest Pinoy welcome to BK Yogesh Sharda.
Hello, and good afternoon, everyone from Istanbul, where I am right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Yogesh, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, firstly, thank you, Jonathan, and the entire team for this wonderful initiative where you're really promoting happiness as a mainstream thing. And also one of the aspects of life that we all love and enjoy, and really should be something that every human being strives to develop more in their own life. In the time that we have, let's see if we can explore some of the important components which make up happiness. Now, this word power is also interesting. Happiness is power. And in my own experience, since I was about 8 or 9 years old, I've been in the practice of meditation and self-awareness, understanding and exploring the inner world. As we know, we all have two worlds that we exist in. There is our outer world of our job, our career, family, travel, and so on. And of course, that's very important. But also we have our inner world of our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, and so on. And as I grew up, I was quite surprised at how little attention people pay to their inner world. And it's only really when people have problems in life or stress, difficulties in relationships, then they begin to explore their inner world. So how do we define power in this whole context? Well, one way by which people see power nowadays is having power over other people, to be able to control another person or a group of people, to dominate, to maybe to manipulate, to crush others in order to achieve my own dreams. But of course, when you hurt other people, they will look for some kind of revenge upon you. If you hurt somebody's heart, they don't like it. So real power, I understand, is the power to own your own happiness. Real power is to be able to manage your inner peace and your happiness, regardless of the circumstances that you are passing through. Real power is personal power, where you develop good self-management skills. And all of this is very much connected to our ability to make our minds into our best friends. So consider this question: who owns your happiness? Is it you, or is it people, situations, and circumstances? Is it that when people behave as I want them to behave, I am happy, but when they behave as they want to behave, I am not happy? Is it that circumstances, when they are as I wish them to be, I feel happy, but when circumstances are not as I like, I lose my happiness? So one measure of happiness as a power is I'm able to maintain my happiness even as I pass through difficulties or adversities. And so we need to understand a little bit more about the mechanics of happiness to really be the owners of it. And I feel that we are interested not just in what is external happiness, that which we may call as having a good time, having fun, enjoying myself, pleasure. All of those things are there, but they shouldn't be my only form of happiness. My inner happiness is what I should be able to carry with me wherever I am and whoever I am with. Think, for example, of how the mind works as a machine. Now, any machinery that you buy, any technology you buy, maybe a mobile phone or perhaps a laptop, even a car or a fridge. But what do you get along with the machine? You get also a user guide. And that user guide tells you how to maintain that piece of technology and how to use it correctly. And so the question arises, where is the user guide for the mind? How am I supposed to use this thing called mind? What sort of thoughts are healthy or appropriate first thing in the morning? What kind of thoughts should come later in the day? How to put the mind to sleep at night? Plus, what kind of attitudes are appropriate for which situation? For example, when I fail at something, what attitude is appropriate at that moment? When I am criticized, which attitude is healthy to have in that situation? When I am being opposed, rejected, ignored, overlooked, what sort of attitude helps me to get past that? So let's explore some of the science involved in understanding our own minds and how to break out of negative thought patterns and create positive and productive ones. Now, to help me explain this, I like to speak about three main groups of people who I have encountered. I think the largest group of people is who we would call as those having a survival mindset. So I remember when I got my first job in central London, so I had just come from studies and entered the world of work. And as you do, you say to your colleagues, well, good morning, how are you? And most people will say, I'm just surviving, mate. And when I heard that, it was surprising to me that just to survive, there must be more to life than simply surviving. Surviving is what a tree may do, what a plant may do. But we are human beings. We have so much power inside us, we don't know how to use it correctly. And therefore, we end up misusing or wasting so much of our inner power. So this was the first category, people who are living as survivors. Then the second category, I would say, is those who are existing. To exist means you go through your day-to-day life, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you are praised, sometimes you are criticized, sometimes you're the center of attention, other times you are completely ignored. And when you are in the existing mode, then your inner emotional state is completely dependent upon the things happening outside of you. Your happiness is not in your own hands. But then there is the third group, which is the smallest group. And I think that's the group that we are all interested in. And that's not people who simply survive through life or who exist through life, but people who truly live. Now, what does it mean to live? What is the difference between existing and living? So a person who is in living mode has understood, I may not be able to control what life brings to me, but I can absolutely control how I wish to receive it. I may not be able to control what comes in front of me, but it is entirely my choice how I wish to see it. And that makes all the difference in life. Am I paying attention to what life is bringing to me, or how I am choosing to see it? When I give more attention to my vision and my attitude, my happiness begins to come into my own hands. And a person who has this living mentality, such a person even uses adversity to make herself or himself grow and become stronger. And so we need to explore our inner self and how our minds are working. I'd like to show you also a few graphics to help me explain some of these ideas. Now, we know that we are, passing through periods of great and sudden change in the world. And change is something which can visit you suddenly and cause you to experience anxiety, tension, stress in your life. So this image uses the idea of a hurricane or a huge storm. And as you'd have seen in satellite images, those storms can be many, many, many kilometers in diameter. But right at the center of the storm, there is a place of relative calm. And that is known as the eye of the storm. So what this image is showing us is that sometimes a storm could come in your health and you can't do or travel as you used to. Sometimes in family or close friends and people who you are used to being there, suddenly that person is no longer there and you have to adjust to that. Sometimes in your job, which also impacts your economy, your finances, maybe your lifestyle, your comforts. And then furthermore, perhaps in your community, in the nation, or the world at large. And what this image is telling us is you cannot control those winds of change outside of you. If you try to go to the hurricane and say, stop, I don't like this, it will simply take you away. But the thing to do is to go to that place of calm, the eye of the storm, which is my own self. Whenever you have any difficulty, challenge, or problem in your life, the first thing to do is to start with my own self. This was a piece of advice I was given when I was in my early teens, that the way to deal with any adversity is first stabilize your mind in your self-respect. Before solving problems, first solve yourself. Make your mind peaceful. Make your mind quiet. And when your mind is in that state of peace, serenity, calmness, then you'll be able to see the problem in front of you and you will not be afraid. Indeed, you'll be able to find a solution. In simple terms, your mind is so powerful, it is more powerful than situations and problems outside of you. If we focused first on the mind, we activate our mind's power, even the situations begin to change. Let's look at another idea to see how it is that we live our lives today and what can we do to improve this. So this is telling us that pretty much all of us, as we are born into this world, we are given a plan. And this is the plan. So as you can see on the left here is you, and on the right of the slide is the aim we are given, that, well, I wish you are happy in your life. I wish you're surrounded by love. I wish you have peace of mind. I wish you feel secure. And then we are told, in order to achieve that aim, you first have to obtain the means. So the means are you need a good education, and then you'll have a good job, then you'll earn lots of money, and therefore you'll have your house, your car, your holidays, etc., and then you'll be happy. But something has happened, especially in the last few decades, and that is that the means has become the new aim. We put all our attention, our focus, our energy in acquiring the means. I need to pass that exam. I need to get that job. I need to earn a certain salary. And we tend to forget, well, am I also happy? Am I also peaceful? Am I able to receive and share love with others? So the real aim becomes kind of, in brackets, incidental. So we may have a good job, a good education, a good house, but also we may have difficulties in relationships. We may even have stress and ulcers and so on. And so what we're learning here, and the message really, is that can I go through life at the same time as being the owner of my happiness? Can I have a balance between taking care of the outside at the same time taking care of the inside? And that's for me what meditation and self-awareness is all about, that life is the ultimate mind game. In fact, most of the things that we encounter in life are to do with the mind. If you look at sport, for example, especially individual sports, a big part of it is a mind game. You have to know how to motivate yourself, how to focus, how to forget the last mistake you've made. And business is also a mind game. Politics is certainly a mind game. In fact, the whole of life is a mind game. How I handle praise, criticism, it's connected to my own mind. Let's look at one more slide, and then we're going to do a little reflection before we come to part 2. And so this is telling us that to truly be successful in life and live a fulfilled life, we do require intelligence. Now, there are many kinds of intelligence we can talk about, including AI, which of course is impacting everyone's life these days. But here are 3 which I feel that are important for us as human beings. Now, we all know of IQ, which is our rational intelligence, logic, reason, analysis, and so on. And it was a way to measure how well a person would do in academic life and also in career. But of course, this is no longer enough for successful and fulfilled living today. And then another phrase entered our vocabulary a couple of decades ago, that was EQ, or emotional intelligence. Whereas IQ is more to do with things, handling things and resources and even finances, and that's important. But EQ is a skill connected with how to handle other people, how to deal with relationships. So emotional intelligence, if I can understand and manage my own emotions, then I am in a good position to understand how other people are feeling and harmonize my relationships with them. If I am consumed by my own moods, my fears, my anger, my anxiety, I will simply project them onto other people and I will misunderstand them. So managing my own emotions is a large part of EQ, emotional intelligence. And then comes what is considered the highest of the emotions. And this, as you can see, is SQ, or spiritual intelligence. Now, again, there's no one set in stone definition. But in my view, spiritual intelligence is connected with two main things. One is your sense of identity. The second is your sense of purpose in your life. And I believe that when we go onto this inner journey to really understand my own identity and my personal sense of purpose in my life, it takes you to the very engine room of your soul. It enables you to contact the DNA of your inner being. And the result of that, what I have observed in some very spiritually intelligent people, is your motivation becomes very, very focused and powerful. Such a person becomes unstoppable. They own their motivation. Because it's not just a motivation for your work, it's a motivation for every part of your life. Your work life, your home life, your social life, everything you do, it's like a red thread passing through all parts of your life. You know who you are, and you know why you are doing what you are doing. Now, let's have a little moment of reflection, a simple visualization I'd like to share with you. It's about going to that place of calmness and peace and personal joy. And this may be useful for you if ever you feel stressed or tense. It's a simple exercise called the quiet room of peace. So if it's okay for you, I would invite you to have your back straight and your feet on the floor. If you're sitting on a chair, and you may close your eyes for this particular exercise, and I will lead you through a simple guided commentary. So firstly, I become aware there is a world outside of me, but there is also a world inside me. The world outside is the world of sound and movement, the world of action. It is the world of doing. And I cannot control the world outside. But there is also a world inside. And that is the world of my thoughts and my feelings and my experiences. And the world inside is in my own hands. My thoughts create my feelings, and I can choose the thoughts I wish to have. So just bring your attention in towards yourself. Bring your attention up to your face and to the center of your forehead. And here at the center of your forehead, picture a small room. And this is your quiet room of peace. Your quiet room of peace is your private and personal space. And when you are inside your quiet room, you feel very relaxed. This is the place where you can be yourself. Inside your quiet room, you are safe and you are secure. You can let go of all your daily roles and responsibilities. The pressures and demands of the outside world. Feel the peace and the wonderful silence of your quiet room. Just allow your mind to absorb this atmosphere of serenity, tranquility. And as you do so, the thoughts begin to slow down. The mind becomes quiet, calm, peaceful, relaxed, stable, strong, secure, balanced, and free. Just be with this feeling of peace in your mind for a moment. You. So if you feel a bit more relaxed, a bit more calm, if this works for you, then I would recommend trying to at least once a day, just withdraw from the doing mode, just come to the being mode, go to your quiet room, spend a few moments there. It charges you up, charges your inner battery, When our inner battery is charged up, then we become the owners of our happiness. Why? Because it is during the day that challenges come to our happiness. It may be at home, maybe at work, maybe in the traffic, maybe in a shopping mall. Things always happen which are not the way I like. People always behave not the way I particularly would prefer. But if my mind is steady, stable, empowered, then the things from outside will not steal my happiness. They won't knock my happiness over. So happiness is power, but we also need this inner power to maintain our happiness. So it is quality happiness, not the temporary happiness which is here today and disappears tomorrow. Let me come to one or two more things. I'd like to share what I find a very, very useful equation or a formula which makes us aware of the power that we have within our own minds and how to also break negative thought patterns, negative thought cycles. So let me see if I can just share this one with you here. Yeah, this tells us that where our emotions are being shaped. So as you see, there are three figures here, 1, 2, and 3. So number 1 is events. Events which happen outside of us. So an event could be something happening right in front of you in your home or in your office. An event could be something you see in the street. An event could be what we watch on the world news. So all of these are events. But what we tend to do, step 2 here, is from our minds, we tend to give meaning to those events. So event is outside of me, but with my mind, I am very, very quickly, almost instantaneously, giving a meaning to that event. So for example, one event could happen in your house or in your office. One person thinks, oh, that's terrible. Another thinks that's a disaster. Somebody finds it very funny. Somebody else thinks it's mildly interesting. Event is one, but the meaning each one is giving individually from their own minds. And hence, human beings have been described as meaning-making machines, as we're constantly giving meaning to everything and everyone. We do this so quickly, we don't even realize we are doing it. And as a result comes figure number 3 here, which are the emotions which are generated. Very, very fast process. Event, meaning, emotion. Event, meaning, emotion. And because it is such a quick process, what we think is happening is the event is creating my emotions. So we say things like, I am very angry because what you said yesterday. I am very upset because of what happened this morning. So we are saying that event or somebody's behavior is responsible for my anger or my upset. But as you see here, there's a big cross there, which says, no, this is not true. I'm not angry because of what you said. I'm angry because of the meaning my mind is giving to what you said. I'm not upset because of what happened this morning. I'm upset because of the meaning my mind is giving to what happened this morning. And here's the good news. We cannot control events, but we can absolutely control and choose and upgrade the meaning we are giving to events. So the message is, let me stop trying to control the events. Let me give more attention to the meaning I'm giving to the events. And can I upgrade? Can I improve that meaning? This is how we can break those negative thought patterns. This also asks us the question, well, what is meaning made up of? Where does meaning come from? What are the components of meaning? What is the meaning of meaning? So here there are three main things which comprise the meaning that we end up giving to events. And as I mentioned earlier, this happens very, very quickly that we are not even aware of it. So three components of meaning: our perception, our perspective, and the context within which we see life. Now, we have time just to go through one of these. Let's just explore how our perspective can be raised, and therefore we give different meaning to the events in our lives. Now, how do you raise your perspective and therefore be the owner of your happiness and not lose your happiness? Well, now comes the slide of our perspective. So it's a simplified diagram. Of course, we can spend hours going into detail, but in simple terms, this line you see here represents your perspective, as is written. On the right side, you see the eye of your mind, how your mind is seeing situations, circumstances, and people. At the top, your perspective is high or open. At the bottom, your perspective is low or closed. So let's say you have some situation in your life which is impacting your happiness. Could be a health issue, family issue, work issue, relationship issue, finance issue, anything. But let's say your perspective is low and you label that situation as a problem. Now, if you label something as a problem and you allow it to live in your mind, then of course it will cause you some anxiety, some stress, and those emotions can impact your health, your sleep, your digestive system, so on and so forth. But you can say to yourself, well, I choose to see this not as a problem, but I raise my perspective. I choose to see it as an obstacle. Now, what's the difference between the two? When you see a problem, you think, well, this is in my way. When you see the same thing as an obstacle, you ask yourself, how can I get over this? How can I find a way around this? How can I find a way through this? So instead of focusing on the thing or the situation, you focus on yourself. You ask yourself, how can I get over this? Now, if we take the example that life is a school, then who are we? It means we are students. If life is a school and we are students, then who are the teachers? The teachers, I would say, are the people you find difficult in your life. And do you have at least one difficult person in your life? You probably do. And there we need to write on the forehead of that person, my teacher. So whether it's people or it's situations, let me ask myself, what is this teaching me? And I think the highest of all teachings, the highest of all lessons, are about absorbing virtue into yourself. In some situation, you need to work on your courage. Somewhere else, you need to work on your self-respect. With another person, you have to work on your tolerance. Somewhere else, you need to develop your patience or your humility or your forgiveness. These are all virtues. The more virtues I develop within myself, the more easily I will fly across the obstacles which come without losing my happiness. Next step, same thing now I see as an opportunity. So here is a chance for me to apply my new learning. So whatever situation comes in front of you, you won't be afraid of it, but you see now time to apply what I am learning, whether it's with a difficult person or a difficult situation. Then we continue to raise the perspective. Now the same thing I see as a test. Now, question, do you like tests? Now, usually when we're at school, we don't like tests, but tests are useful. We go, for example, for a health checkup. It's a test to see if everything's working okay. We take our car for a test to the garage. The wipers, the brakes, the wheels are working properly. And if something is not right, we fix it, or we may take some kind of treatment. In the same way, for a person who is self-aware or spiritually aware, when we come across challenging people or situations, we ask ourselves, this is a test for me. For example, it's a test of my patience. It's a test of my inner strength. It's a test of my humility. And we take the opportunity to check the self, to do some self-assessment rather than she shouldn't talk like this, they shouldn't talk like that, this shouldn't be like the other. First and foremost, take the opportunity for self-growth. Use growth language. Terms such as, what can I learn in this situation? How will this make me stronger? How can I move forward through this? How can I grow through this? As it is sometimes said, don't just go with the flow, but grow with the flow. And don't just grow with the flow, but glow with the flow. So the opportunity to grow and glow is always in our hands. And then the final step, as you see here, is that same thing now I see as a gift. And there are people who've been through very challenging situations, health-wise, through accident or illness or other situations in life. They've come out of it and they said, you know, it was like a gift for me. I learned so much. Now, we may not have such extreme situations, but still, the point is the ability to raise my perspective is in my own hands. If not today, maybe tomorrow I see the gift. If not tomorrow, maybe it'll happen sometime later. So raising my perspective changes the meaning I give to an event. And since I change the meaning, I change my emotional state. I can become the owner of my own happiness if I choose to upgrade the meaning I give to events. Now, so much more to share with you, but I think I need to pause there and bring in Jonathan back onto the digital stage, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Yogesh. I actually took down notes, and I think we will have a couple of hours more for the Q&A question. But the first, we would want to pursue the Q&A portion already. If we can ask some of our participants to share their thoughts or even questions in the chat room. But I'd like to start the ball rolling because I actually took down notes, Yogesh. You mentioned about the three types of people: those who are in survival mode, the living mode, and the existing mode. I'd like to add another mode actually, and I would like to call it the victim mode, because there are those who actually would, even if there's something good and positive that are actually happening to them, their mindset is that they are a victim of situations and the circumstances. And many of us feel that our minds actually control us, not the other way around. So how do we begin to make the mind our powerful tool instead of our master?
Yeah. But one thing is, and I didn't really get to this point, but, starting the day with meditation is really, really, really useful. Before you engage with the world out there, first engage with your inner self and charge the battery of your mind. Why the mind may misbehave is because it's not experiencing what it deep down needs. And what it needs is to experience peace, comfort, contentment, security, etc. If you feed the mind these experiences in the morning, in your morning meditation, the mind feels satisfied and calm. Then during the day, it becomes your friend. So that's one thing. Second thing to do is a practice which, Jonathan, we call it traffic control for the mind. You try to stop for 2 or 3 minutes every couple of hours. Just disengage from what you're doing if you can. If you're a surgeon or driving a bus, don't do this. But otherwise, disengage. You just come to to that inner space, to your quiet room. You just give the mind a peace break. It's like we have a coffee break. Give the mind a peace break. It will feel so good. It begins to listen to you. So traffic control during the day every couple of hours, which is a mini meditation. Then at the end of the day, finish the day by closing the day. Just like you close a laptop or a computer, you sign off, you log off, you may switch off. The same way, allow the mind just to empty the mind of the thoughts of the day. Just tell yourself whatever happened today. Maybe I did something amazing or something very silly, but for today, the curtain is down. Today is over. Multiply everything by 0. Empty the mind of the thoughts of the day. Let the mind be relaxed and go to sleep. So some simple practices like this helps to calm the mind, and the mind feels good. It begins to cooperate with you.
Thank you for that method. I'd like to inform you that we in Cebuana Luwiller Foundation is actually practicing the traffic control of the mind. At around 10:30 in the morning and 2:30, our administrative assistant plays instrumental music. Sometimes we also turn off our lights. And we practice a mental spa or something like what you actually mentioned, a mental traffic of the mind. But isn't it that when you traffic the mind, and I understand the psychologists are saying that there are about 40 to 50,000 thoughts a day. For a corporate executive like us, for example, we need to constantly in the thinking mode. And isn't it very paradoxical that when we control the flow of our thoughts, the more we can be very powerful about our thoughts and in control of our mind? Can you share something about this?
Yeah, I mean, I know one person who was a great a friend or a kind of older brother for me or a mentor. He's passed away now.
Mm-hmm.
He was responsible for setting up a hospital, a university, big campuses. But when you know him, and I knew him for 40 years, he talks slowly, he walks slowly, he eats slowly. You think, how can this guy get anything done? You have to be dynamic and kind of, running around with like a headless chicken. But because his mind was so slow and in control, and he was a meditator, he understood people very quickly and was able to address their issues. He understood situations, what the problem was, and could give proper guidance. So when your mind is quiet, your intellect is clear, you can see situations for what they are. You can know if I do this, the end result will be that. So you can choose how to act and behave. You can make effective decisions because the mind is not disturbing your intellect. And therefore, I think that, there's a difference between efficiency and being effective.
Mm-hmm.
The old definition is, efficiency is doing things right,
Right. Yeah.
effective doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
But to do the right things, you have to know what those things are.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, your mind has to be calm so your intellect can discern and make good decisions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. For us, for example, when we are actually working, we're constantly bombarded so many stimuli outside, like a deadline that's actually causing pressure, maybe a nasty boss, or maybe a very demanding boss and a nasty spouse. But you mentioned about the concept of perspective earlier. How can I have positive reframing so that these negative circumstances or stimuli outside, I can be able to manage them inside. In so doing, I can have what I call as adversity intelligence. You actually gave us the three types of intelligence earlier: SQ, IQ, and EQ, and actually posted in the uh, chat room about AQ or adversity quotient. How can I reconcile this inner and outer conflicts so that I can remain peaceful and of course happy?
Yeah. But it's a question of training or retraining the mind with what I call as growth language.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, because we may default to a negative mindset, or I'm useless, you're useless, or I'm a failure, or I can't do it properly, or what's the point in trying? I may as well give up, etc.
The victim
But
mode, as I actually mentioned earlier. Sorry to guess. That's the victimitis, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or even you're useless, or somebody else is useless. We may get into those kinds of finger pointing at others. But here, I think growth language, we have to train ourselves and ask ourselves, what can I learn from this situation?
Mm-hmm.
What is this situation teaching me? What opportunity is life placing in front of me right now? So, for example, sometimes, a door slams shut in your face, but a window has opened somewhere else. So, am I fighting the door and trying to bash down the door, or do I look for the window of opportunity which has also opened? Now, when it comes to other people, for example, I have found that sometimes working with a team, a person may have 99% weaknesses, bad characteristics. 1%, they may have some strength. Can I ask myself, what is good in this person? What's useful in
Mm-hmm.
this person?
Yeah.
And begin to capitalize on it and help it to grow. Encourage that person to bring the best out of them. Because, somebody may see things in a different way to me. I can learn something from them. Now, having said that, I do believe that we have more to unlearn than we have to learn. I think we have to unlearn what we have mislearned so we can relearn what we should have learned. Just like, training an animal, for example, giving a dog house training, it has to be regular and systematic. So training the mind to think positively and productively has to be regular and systematic so it becomes a good habit for me.
Mhm. I certainly agree with that, Yogesh, because I've read and uh, actually saw in some of the YouTube posts about the power of mind that was actually initiated by a Japanese researcher called Masaru Emoto. He meditated on a glass of
Right.
water and he poured out his negative thoughts and positive thoughts, and accordingly, he was able to influence water crystal formations. And then at one point, he had very positive thoughts and beautiful hexagon-shaped water crystals were formed. And then eventually, he poured out his negative emotions, experiences, and eventually these crystal formations were actually disintegrated. This means to say that our thoughts really influence subatomic particles and even matter. And to your point, even if a person is 99% bad, I need to amplify the 1% good so that perhaps that way I can be able to be reinforcing the negative, the positivity of that person, albeit only 1%. Right. Okay. There's a question in the chat room. I think this is coming from Sebla. Is repeating to yourself what you really want to think about your future when you are by yourself is good, and writing and visualizing is important? Or how do I often to do it? When you constantly repeat a perception or idea or thought in your mind, is it good?
I would say certainly these things help to keep the positive in my awareness. So one person, for example, can keep a positive idea, positive quality in their mind, and it stays there for quite some time. Other people, they do it, but then it slips away. So they have to keep reminding themselves. I believe that as our mind becomes more stable and powerful, you can keep a positive, productive thought in your mind and it will stay there. It'll become natural for you. So repeat if you need to, but after a while, you'll find it becomes more natural.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also have another question. With this pertains to the social media, but with the kind of information overload and negativity that we've been witnessing in the social media, like in the Philippines now, there are a lot of issues on corruption, wanton display of extravagance. How can we practice mental agility? That is the ability to filter, focus, and not get overwhelmed. So I can be able to
Yeah.
not be affected by the external stimuli.
Yeah. I mean, if we think back, 30, 40 years ago, most countries had one, two, maybe three TV channels, national channels. And now, of course, there are literally thousands with social media and, all the different platforms that exist. So I have to remember that I have to choose what I wish to expose my mind to. How much do I really need to listen and watch? We need to know what's happening in the country and in the world, but we don't need to listen to every analyst sharing their own opinion. So I think people today get lost in overexposing themselves to information and therefore feeling a bit overwhelmed. So we need to be quite strict in knowing, okay, this is how much I need, and that's as much as is useful for today. And to understand that, whatever we see on the news or on the internet, largely it is decontextualized. There is a
Mhm.
much bigger story around that which we don't know. So not to feel as though one is, don't absorb everything you see and hear. There is a bigger story there. First of all, my peace of mind is my first priority. My happiness is my priority, and I need to take care of that before consuming any information.
Mhm. Thank you for those clarification. What is the most practical first step when we catch ourselves spiraling into negative thinking? And from your
Yeah.
experience, can you share how you actually handle situations like this? But I know that you're a very experienced meditator, but for our audience who are actually not an experienced meditator themselves, how will you teach us this way of uh, not delaying, but being able to detach ourselves from these situations?
Okay. So do you mean in meditation specifically or in life,
Yes,
negative situations?
both in meditation and in life.
Well, in life, it's a little bit what I was sharing earlier that, when for example, when I've forgotten something, messed up somewhere, or failed at something, I used to overthink it. And I used to make myself feel a little bit heavy, a little bit burdened, and like, oh, how could I make that mistake? When I observed some very spiritually mature people, I saw sometimes they made mistakes, but they didn't
Mhm,
waste time feeling bad. Then I thought, that's a good idea. Idea. I can do this too. Then I came up with like a three-step process. Whenever I make any kind of mistake, number one is ask myself, what can I learn from this? What is the lesson for me? And even to write it down, because when you write it down, it goes deeper inside you. And second step is give myself permission to forget the situation. Don't keep thinking about it. It's gone in the past. Forget it. Let it go. It wants to
mhm,
go. Let it go.
mhm,
And number three is move on, which means carry the lesson with you into tomorrow, but forget the situation. So I found this little mantra was very useful for me. What did I learn? Forget the situation, let it go. Let me move on because there's no time to waste feeling bad. So this was a good general formula for handling these situations. And also in meditation, when negative thoughts come, it's important to know these are coming from some something I've seen or experienced in the past. It's not what I'm creating now. So just allow those thoughts to come and let them go. Don't fight them, but become busy with the thoughts you want to consciously create.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we suggest for people who are beginners in meditation, it helps to have a kind of commentary,
Mm-hmm.
listening to a commentary, guiding you that, okay, let's think in this way. After a while, as your concentration improves, you don't need a commentary. You can give it to yourself. But initially, you need thoughts which guide you in the right direction, so you're not being taken hostage by negative or wasteful thoughts.
Which actually amplifies your point earlier that we are all students in life and all the situations are actually teachers. So, regardless of whatever situation, just get the learnings, the insights, and realizations and move forward and forget whatever, problems, drawbacks, but take actually the lessons from these situations. There's a question in the chat room. Thank you for your wise, balanced, and enriching sharing. I can see in your words and how you share them that you are very well grounded in meditation. Here is my set of questions, please. This is just one question. What were two of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in order to manage your perception and discipline your mind? The second question, Yogesh, is how did you personally overcome these?
Do you have 3 hours?
Can you summarize and encapsulate everything in 5 minutes?
These are great questions. I would say like one of the things that was a big challenge for me to get over was self-doubt. Maybe the main one. Because I grew up, with meditation practice and spiritual training, which was great, but I didn't have so much experience of the world. So I was kind of doubting myself, my ability to, to do things properly, to fit in, to be, to make a difference. But one thing that helped me is understanding that whatever you do, if you do it with sincerity, with a clean
Mhm,
heart, with a good intention, even if it doesn't go well, consider it to be a training to help you to do it better next time. So with these thoughts, it helped me to develop a courage to face situations and not be afraid of so-called failure. And of course, we hear these examples of people who it took them 1,000 attempts to do something. The saying goes that it took Edison 1,000 attempts to create the light bulb, and somebody told him, "Did you get fed up?" He said, "I found 999 ways by which it doesn't work." It's an example of positive thinking. So that same kind of approach helped me a lot, that in order to improve, I need to try, put it into practice. Even if the results don't come as I wish, it'll empower my ability to do it better next time. So
mhm,
that was the main one, dealing with my own sense of self-doubt and developing confidence in my own ability to serve and to be useful to others.
mhm. But also, you guess there are circumstances where sometimes I suppress my feelings and try to have some. There's a concept called toxic positivity that rather than being realistic, I hide and then sugarcoat whatever experiences that I have. How will you advise people who are actually doing this, and how can I be true to myself so that at the end of the day I will be in control of my emotions?
Yeah, it's certainly true that being honest with yourself, I think, is the first step in real personal growth.
Mhm.
If I'm sugarcoating or avoiding or pretending
Repressing, yeah.
something is, then it doesn't work. Well, there are 5 steps I find useful. Um, the first is to acknowledge. So
Okay.
acknowledge that, for example, whatever the tendency may be, acknowledge I am lazy, acknowledge I get angry, acknowledge I am insecure, whatever it might be. Acknowledgement, not to deny, not to project, not to blame someone or something. Step 2 is called to accept. So to accept means I take responsibility for what this is. I take responsibility for the way I feel. I take responsibility for my habits. I'm not, saying it's because of someone or something. I take responsibility. I accept. Step 3 is then to understand. So understand, okay, in that situation, for example, now why do I get angry when somebody is rude to me? Why do I get irritated when so-and-so doesn't do what I want them to do? So I'm trying to understand the mechanism by which anger is operating within me, for example. So to see what are the pathways which lead to that anger.
Mm-hmm.
Understand. Then step 4 is called to apply. Apply the solution. Apply the medication. So in the example of anger, we realize that the reason for anger, the root cause of anger, is the desire to control. I
Mm-hmm.
am trying to control someone. I am trying to control a situation. So there, apply the solution. I cannot control people and situations. I can only control my response to them. Apply that new understanding into my thinking. And by continuing to apply it regularly, step 5 is you transform. You transform it and you create a new habit, some call it a neural pathway or a mental pathway. Yeah, there it is. Acknowledge, accept, understand, apply. Thank you.
Just for
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Yogesh. I noticed that it's already 8 minutes past 6, and we've actually exceeded our time. But my realization from this discourse is that we all have the power to choose and to discern uh, external stimulus, whether or not they are adverse, whether or not they are good or bad. But at the end of the day, I have the power to choose, and at the end of the day, I can be able to uh, whether react or respond to these situations. It is not the stimulus or stimuli that happens to me, but how I respond or react, or what I do to the things or to the thought that happens to me. That's actually more important. What is important is that I am able to perceive it in a way that's very helpful to me and hopefully not negative. With this, at least we would like to close and thank Yogesh once again for sharing his wisdom today. You never fail to amaze us, Yogesh, with your very simple, very, very profound insights and articulated very, very simply. And again, maybe we can request our participants to open their videos so that we can just wave and thank Yogesh for sharing his time with us. I know that it's over lunch already in Turkey. Is that correct? It's
Uh,
past lunchtime, right?
yes,
Anyway,
yes.
so before we officially end, maybe as one last chat activity in one word, how do you feel after today's session? We would like to request everyone to at least jot down a word or a phrase that describes how you feel after today's session with Yogesh. Changed or transformed from Cebuana Luwilier? Can we hear from the others? Definitely more grounded. Thank you, Yogesh. Maybe we can hear from others. Enlightened from Archie. Uplifting from Alobo. Relieved. And while we're waiting, maybe at this point again, would like to thank Yogesh for his time, and hopefully we can hear from you more, Yogesh, in the next probably session with Resilience Area. Maybe we can have another episode because this discourse is very profound, and we've noticed that we've exceeded the time. And maybe at this point, I'd like to thank again Yogesh and all our participants for joining us in this fourth Resilience series. session. Um, Again, maybe happiness is just a thought away, and thought away, and resilience begins in the mind. Just decide to be happy, not tomorrow, not in the future, but now. No one can make you unhappy without your consent. This is Jonathan, your moderator, wishing you a peaceful, joyful evening. See you at the next episode of the Happiest Pinoy Resilience Serie. Thank you again, Yogesh, and thank you to everyone. Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Thank you,
Be well.
guys.